What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Captain Paul with his co-host, Jack Lowe. How you
What up,
doing,
people?
man?
Doing good. Long time no see you, bitch.
Damn straight, man. We should definitely make this a little bit more frequent. We will, especially now since the playoffs are here. I'm going to post this up on my social media so we can get this out there. Okay, so let's just talk about it. The Ottawa Senators versus Pittsburgh Penguins. Can we just say that was an incredible ending to that series? That was perfect.
That is what a Game 7 should be.
Hell yeah. That's what brings in new hockey fans. That's just it is. It's like it's perfect hockey. You know, you go into double overtime. You can tell it. And the Pittsburgh Penguins were dominating them, in my opinion, in overtime. Like it was like not even close.
They had a half a dozen chances in that first overtime that should have gone in.
Yeah, well, like I did laugh at one point with the Pittsburgh fans throwing stuff on the ice where I don't know if the replay wasn't there on the Jumbotron over there, but it clearly didn't go in the net. They
looked at it from the top and all you saw was the puck go in, but you couldn't from that angle, you couldn't see that it was over the top of the net. It looked like it was going in the net. And that's when the Pittsburgh fans stayed classy and threw all their little bullshit towels on the ice.
Yeah, no, I think that was a very kind of immature move on the Pittsburgh fans, especially when your team's like that far in it. Yeah, 100%. It wasn't even like they should have shown the better angle, obviously, but it was just it was obviously stupid. But enough of the Pittsburgh shenanigans. I'm not really surprised. Let's just say how it is, man. I think honestly that was a good ending, and I think Kunitz is the right guy to get that last goal.
Oh, I concur.
But can we just say this? If Pittsburgh doesn't win, do we have a goalie controversy now in Pittsburgh?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because even though it wouldn't be really Murray's fault, but you took out a guy that was carrying you throughout the playoffs, and so far it has panned out. But it's shocking to me where they went with it. When it comes regarding to that situation, especially the guy had one bad game and he wasn't even really playing that bad. It was just the team in front of him.
Well, I was shocked that Murray started this game.
Yeah, you were shocked? I really wasn't.
Well, I won't say shocked. I'll say surprised because that shows the coaching staff showed that they have very little confidence in the Flower.
Well, I also think it's kind of them putting on their own. They're kind of pushing him out the door. I think they don't really want him there because they have the young guy. But I think it's kind of a shame because that guy has played great for them and he's won them a couple cups. And not to like beat that topic to death. I think maybe we should wait a little bit. We want to go into the review first, just so we can get the review out the way, and then we can kind of go with our like reaction to the whole series. Then we can kind of go to a preview, so we kind of go in order, just so we can stay on point with it. Let's just start off. So, what do you think was the turning point for the Penguins? Like, were them just all of a sudden it just seemed like a little bit they had a little bit more of a better possession game. But it just seemed like in overtime, it was kind of like a flip switch. Did Erik Karlsson run out of gas? Did the Ottawa Senators just start running out of gas? Because it just seemed like puck possession-wise, it seemed in overtime, the Penguins were just all over them. It was just unrelenting at all.
I think it's the fact that Pittsburgh has the more skilled guys when it comes down to it. Ottawa showed a ton of heart, and I mean a ton of heart. They have nothing to be sorry about. They gave Pittsburgh everything they could handle. But I think that strategy they used in Game 6 to kind of hang back and wait kind of bit them in the ass finally.
Yeah.
Because it worked it worked well in Game 6, but I think they went to the well a little too often, and it came back and it ended up not working for them because you can't do that against guys like Cindy Crosby and Gino. Guys like that. I mean, those are the two guys everybody focuses on. I mean, you got to remember there's, Kunitz is on that team. Kessel's on that team.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 4 legit guys that are viable all-stars every year. And I mean,
100%.
Before this series, how many hockey fans could name 6 guys on the Ottawa Senators outside of Carlson?
Unless you're a hockey fan like us,
Nobody.
Yeah, pretty much. Like maybe Bobby Ryan, but even with Bobby Ryan, he's had such a bad year, and even in my opinion, a bad tenure with the Senators, that he's just kind of lost it. You know, when he was in Anaheim, he was a goal scorer, whereas with the Senators, he took a few steps back regarding that. But I agree 100% with you on that, is that you really didn't know these Senators players before this series, whereas, you know, you have Crosby, Malkin, you have Kessel, you have Kunitz, you have Letang, there's just so much talent. And Sheary, the young kids, they also get into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's a wealth of like riches that I haven't seen before. And they do have a really good head coach in Sullivan. I used to be a fan of him when he was coaching the P Bruins. And it's just, for me, I think it's slightly unfair for the Senators, but fuck, man, Anderson made this a whole series.
Like, yeah,
he stood on his head. Yeah, he had that one game where he got yanked and Pittsburgh scored 7.
And then he came back and just was masterful.
Masterful. It was probably one of the it sucks, especially regarding his situation. I just think, in my opinion, that Anderson has kind of solidified himself as like maybe 1 or 2 best goalies in the league. And I think that may be jumping the boat for some people, but I don't think Anderson gets the love he should, especially regarding the whole turmoil he's had this season regarding his wife and the cancer diagnosis.
And then the first game back shuts out the Islanders. I mean, that's fucking stones. That's yards of fucking rocks that guy has. I mean, he has my fucking respect from here on out. I mean,
100%. 100%. You can't even hate on the guy. He gives his effort. And that Kunitz shot, that wasn't on him. That was just a snipe. That was a great shot. That was a great place. Snipe that top left corner, I believe. Blocker side. That was just a great shot right around the defenseman, and picked it off. It was great.
Yeah. And I nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do. And I think this win, and you know, I'm not trying to jump the boat when I say this, but I think this win kind of saved Crosby from some criticism that I think he slightly deserves.
Oh, I think you're 1,000% right.
Because Crosby hasn't had that. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no problem. I like the shots of Malkin. He looked gassed. They showed him about 3-4 minutes left to go in that first overtime. And he's sitting there, and you could tell he's tired because he's sitting there. He's kind of hunched over. His mouth, he's breathing through his mouth.
Yeah.
And he's sucking wind. And I think that was indicative of this entire game. If you watch this game tonight, you saw what the NHL is all about.
100%. 100%. I think this was perfect playoff hockey. And this is what I think makes hockey the best sport out of all the sports. And I'm slightly biased because I played it since I was 2.5. But I think hockey, any team can go in it and win it. Just look at the Nashville Predators, like an 8 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sweeping the Blackhawks, continually playing all their series and, you know, pretty much dominating. Hockey's the ultimate team sport. And you even had a team with the Ottawa Senators that has a lot of flaws on that roster. Like, let's not get it twisted. They do have a lot of average to below average players on that team that they utilize their talent, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They play to the strengths on that team. And Boucher should
everything out of that team that they could.
Yeah, and I think the coaching on that team is fantastic. Boucher got the most out of his players he could.
And may I interject 1 second? A Mark Crawford sighting.
Yeah.
I did not know that he was an assistant coach.
Oh, you did?
For those of you who don't know Mark Crawford, he'd been coaching in a Swiss league for the past couple years. Before that, he won a cup with my Avs in '96. So I mean, Ottawa is
good coach.
Close. They're close. They need a goal scorer.
Dude, they definitely need a goal scorer. They need somebody in that can just bury the puck. And I think they thought they had that when they got Ryan years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But and this is the one thing I will say that worries me about anyone you get from Anaheim that plays with Getzlaf and
Perry
and Perry, excuse me, is that you have to be curious of, like, is it really that player or is it the two guys surrounding him? I think that's like those guys that like Neil, for example. Neil's is still a very solid player, but he's not what he was when he was playing with Crosby. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And when you have that upper talent around you to make you better, it definitely helps you out.
And I think to a lesser extent, it's probably the system too.
Yeah, 100%.
That they were playing in, because Crosby plus, I mean, Getzlaf plus Perry plus the system you're playing in, you know, who knows, that might make you a stud. And then you go to a different team with under a different coach, you know, who's running a different system, you know, all of a sudden you kind of become mediocre.
And I think, and this is the thing when it comes to this game, let's just break it down. Just shot totals alone tells you kind of the tone of this game. Shots on goal, 42 shots on goal for the Penguins and only 29 for the Senators. So Murray wasn't as tested as much as Anderson. So anyone in Ottawa, you should fucking lock up Anderson, keep him for years, sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal, keep him locked up for his prime, because he was the only reason your team was that competitive in this series. There was games where he just stonewalled the Penguins, and it must have been frustrating. Yeah,
he stopped, because this is the second game in a row he faced 40 plus shots.
Yeah,
and you know what? He's given up 5 goals. And probably damn near 90 shots that he's faced. You know, if you told most NHL fans that your goalie is going to give up 5 goals on 90 plus shots, most of your NHL fans would sign up for that.
Yeah, 100%. I think anyone would sign up for that. I think that you have some good players, like you have Turris, you have Ryan, and then obviously you have Carlson. But, you know, really, you take a big dip after Carlson, in my opinion, just upper echelon talent-wise. It's just a big dip. Whereas other teams, it's not really like that gradual of a dip. I think that Nashville may be in trouble with Johansson being out, but it's going to be an interesting series, because I think, and this is just me looking outside, looking in for this team. I've watched them in the playoffs thus far. Like, I'm a Bruins fan, so I watched them up and close. They're not exactly like the Ottawa Senators weren't exactly a heavy team to me. Like, you know what I mean? They weren't that like heavy defensive minded team like the Nashville Predators. So that's why I think it will still be a pretty damn good series. And you also get Pekka Rinne, who has revived his career, in my opinion, in these playoffs. Like, he's played out of his world.
I mean, does this playoffs kind of solidify his Vezina?
Who, Anderson?
No, Rinne.
I'd have to look. I don't think Rene's stats were that good in the regular season.
I don't think they were either. And I know, I know they don't count the playoff stats in the regular season shit.
I think if anyone has an outside shot currently that was just in the playoffs, would have been probably an Anderson.
Yeah.
I think it might go to Columbus Blue Jackets Bobrovsky, because he had such a filthy year.
His double dropped off kind of towards the end.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. I'd have to really kind of digest and look into the stats. I'll look at them actually right now when it comes to that. But sadly, they don't include playoffs. I think it would be slightly unfair to a goalie that had a filthy year, but just was surrounded by shit for a team. But excuse me. But I do think these playoffs show you really who's the superior talent, because I feel like there's a lot of guys that put up a lot of amazing numbers in regular season but can't do shit in the postseason.
So may I say one thing?
What's that?
Mr. Carlson is a fucking animal.
Oh yeah.
Logged 40 minutes of ice time with the two. He had 2 hairline. I think they said he had 2 hairline fractures in his heel.
Really? Holy
yes.
shit. Holy shit.
That's why, you know what? If they gave him the Conn Smythe, I would have right now. Even, I mean, once the playoffs are over, they gave that kid the Conn Smythe, I would be like, fucking deserved, because I have a newfound respect for Erik Karlsson. He is a fucking warrior. Fucking warrior. As hard as he played, knowing he had the hairline fractured in his fucking heel, and he's had him for I think since last round or maybe even the first round. I'm not right. I can't remember, but it was just how hard you play with. I mean, you're in pain constantly.
100%.
And I mean, that's the other reason. This is my other reason. I was just telling my girlfriend while watching the game. I said, "This is why this is the best sport in the fucking world." Because guys go above and beyond, and it's just I was amazed at like how hard they were going in that first overtime, knowing they were all both teams were just on fumes.
Yeah, they were. You could tell they were exhausted. If you check the bench, they were actually completely exhausted, and they really. And they really they did just such an amazing job though, both sides. Like they were wasted, didn't want to go anymore. You could tell like they showed a few headshots of like Kessel and Malkin just bending over. I know a few people will probably make some jokes saying that he was probably just busy, eating donuts and he was in bad shape or something, because I know he's not in most peak physical condition. But let's just call it is what it is. A great series. And by the way, just to reference it, yeah, Bobrovsky's most likely going to win the Vezina. He led the league in goals against average and save percentage. Goals against of 2.06 and a save percentage of 9.31. And the next guy down for goals against would be Brandon Holtby with 2.07. And then Jimmy Howard with 9.2. Jimmy Howard, holy shit.
Good.
He had a good season, but he didn't play as much. I don't know. I have to check that. But the guy right underneath that with like under 0.001 point would be Craig Anderson with a 9.26 save percentage. So I think if Bobrovsky doesn't win it, which I don't see why he wouldn't win it, it would be Anderson just from stats alone. But yeah, it's been a really good season, and I think that Anderson should feel no shame. And I think regarding the season, the controversy around it, I think he definitely deserves the Vezina.
Yeah,
and especially this playoffs solidified that.
Yeah. So okay, I have to say something because I actually had to walk out of the room during the intermission between the first and second overtime because I could not stand Mike Milbury and Keith Jones egregious hoovering. If I had a Twitter account, I would tweet both Keith Jones and Mike Milbury and ask them both what Sidney Crosby tastes like.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God.
Yeah. It's shameful. It's shameful how bad they suck him off, honestly. It's like, not just call it, like you wanted to, you stated it. So, Crosby's not had a good postseason.
No.
I'm sorry. He's like, compared to what people expect, and I know like people are gonna like in the comments or even down below watching and be like, well, he's got 20 points. But I'm like, he's got 20 points because he's been in longer in a lot of these games, in my opinion, these series, deeper in these series. But I don't know, man. I think Crosby at times, like he'll have a few point game, a multi-point game, and he'll look fantastic. But then he'll have those games where he just looks like he disappears. I'll say this for Game 7, not to give him an excuse, but he was active out there. But I do think it was a little bit of an exaggeration when they went to intermission. Even the OTs, like, oh, I can see Crosby. He's like jamming out there, like skating all around. I'm like, yeah, he's doing what most players should be doing, back checking, being positionally sound. I just, it just gets a little like I think Malkin does not get enough credit on that team. Like Malkin is 1A, 1B with Crosby, and in some aspects, for me personally, I like Malkin as a player better than Crosby because he plays a little bit harder of a game.
Yeah,
and I think he's a little bit more of a no, I'm not gonna say more of an offensive threat, but more just an overall threat. 2A. He's bigger. He doesn't have to rely on getting hands. He can just power around you. He's a big fucking boy.
Yeah, but he did that hip check he took was filthy.
Yeah, it was.
That was old time hockey, and I was watching the game with my girlfriend, and I was like, "That is a hockey play, ladies and gentlemen. That is a fucking hockey play." Upended his ass, and I know the hip check is something of a bygone era. I remember seeing it as a kid.
Yeah,
and even somewhat through the 90s, but the past 15, 20 years, the hip check has kind of lost.
It's too hard of it. First off, I've only done like probably a handful of good hip checks in when I play because it's a lot different of a game. It's not as clutchy, grabby. It's a lot more fast paced. The last guy I really saw effectively hip check was Ray Bork, and that's been a while. It's just a different game, in my opinion. Right? They should make it Olympic ice size. Right, because you see a lot of speed guys now. To really kind of capitalize on that, in my opinion, you should make the ice rink surface bigger, so you're playing it at the Olympic style, and then you'd have more skill plays.
Yeah,
I think honestly, and you'd probably have way more scoring. You just would, because it'd be way more open ice. You'd have more open ice. You have all these finesse guys that probably are fringe NHLers, but then they could really show off their skill. Just like sidebar for me, like a Sergei Samsonov. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh yeah, I do.
He was fantastic before he hurt his wrist, but he was a fantastic player. Great hands, but he was just so small, and the ice surface was so small as well that he would just get destroyed. So guys like that, I think they flourish a little bit better now, but just imagine with an Olympic ice surface, like a guy like a Letang or a Carlson skating around, it would make the game more exciting, and in my opinion, and also in my opinion, a better product, because I feel like if you have more fast moving players and fast moving puck movement, you're gonna have more goals. That's how I look at it.
Can't argue with that.
But and just so we can point out that at the beginning of this podcast, I think we were right with the whole Penguins being fucking stacked. You want to know the top 5 points getter in the playoffs are? It's Evgeny Malkin with 24, Sidney Crosby with 20, Getzlaf with 19, Phil Kessel with 19, and Carlson with 18. And then literally on the sixth one you have Jake Goodsill at 16. Like, dude, it's filled with Penguins, and Gutsill's leading the playoffs in goals with 9 right now. So, I'm not really shocked the Penguins won this series. In my opinion, they should have won it in probably like 6 or 5. But, it just kind of, like we said before, I think it highlights that hockey truly is a team sport. If you have all 12 forwards going and all 6D, you can win a game. You don't have to be the most skilled team. You don't even have to be the best team overall and talent-wise. You can just win from great mechanics, great execution, and just better game strategy.
Yeah. And I got to say, the kid that's probably impressed me most on that Penguins team is one that nobody really knows. Brian Rust. I think first name Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kid has been everywhere. He's gotten some dirty fucking goals, and that's what wins you the cup. Not the fucking beautiful slappers, not the fucking redirects, are the guys that are willing to get filthy down low and do the dirty work that your superstars won't.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
I know he's not probably nowhere near the top points getter on that Pittsburgh team, but that kid shows a ton of heart. And I know I would take him on the Avs in a second, because that kid's willing to lay it all out. Well,
he's a Minnesota boy. He's good. Let's just so people get the context of this. He's only 25. This season he played 57 games, 15 goals, 13 assists. So 57 games, 28 points, which is pretty good. He probably around the 20s, mid 20s if he played a full season. And dude, he's got 6 goals and 1 assist. He's got 7 points in 17 games played in the playoffs. In the playoffs, it's harder to score unless you're Justin Williams, who's just pretty much captain clutch himself.
Yeah, he's unconscious in the playoffs.
It's Justin Williams is a filthy player that any playoff team and any other team besides Washington, you win the cup with Williams.
Yeah.
Just saying, any team but Washington. But yeah, no, Rust, he's 14th in points in the playoffs, and I know it's a shorter field, but not 14. I'm sorry, he's 14th in goals, but he's only 3 behind Gutzel for leading the league in playoff goals. So but I think, what I think who's impressed me, and I know he's already a superstar, is the way Carlson's played, man. Like that, dude. That many points, dude. He's got 18 points
with
as
a
a
hairline. With a
as a
hairline fracture in his heel.
as a defenseman too, though.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other defenseman in the top 10 on this list.
No. And he logged at the end of, I think they said at the end of the first overtime, he'd had 37 minutes ice time. It's
crazy.
Unreal. And they said through that point, he had something like 80 more minutes in total ice time than anybody else in the playoffs. I know I'm fucking a broken record, but with hairline fractures in his heel. I mean, that to me is just. I mean, that's why I'm sorry. You know, Pecorini may stand on his head for the rest of this series and get Nashville its first cup. And, you know, they might think, but it's like, I'm sorry. I've already seen one guy and he's got the Conn Smythe.
Yeah, but you got to give it to the Stanley Cup winner or the Stanley Cup loser in some cases, depending on, because I think Giguère won it with Anaheim when they lost it, when he lost that cup. But he's cemented his status, because I think you may agree with me on this. I think that you have regular season players that do really well that you think are stars, but they really kind of solidify their stardom in the playoffs, in series like that, the way they play and the way they put effort in. And I can't hate on a guy that's much of a warrior skating on that. You know how much that's got to just suck walking to the rink?
Yeah.
Like,
even doing anything non-hockey related, that has just got to be
painful.
Pain.
He's a beast. There's no doubt about it. But Pittsburgh executed better. Pittsburgh had better players overall. They had more possession in overtime, and I think that's what did the Senators in. I think the dump and chase game works for only so long when you're playing higher skilled opponents. They needed to have a little bit better of a possession game. I do like what I saw from Bobby Ryan this postseason, and hopefully that translates to next year for a better season, because he obviously has the skill. And it does slightly make me question if Bobby Ryan just sometimes doesn't have the desire to play. Because if you can show a little bit of those flashes in the playoffs, I'm like, is it more of a desire thing that you don't want to put in effort right now, or what with Ryan? But that's always kind of a mystery with me. But I think the Senators definitely have a good future. They have a few young guys in there. They have Anderson there for the long haul. You have Carlson, who's relatively young. What they need to do is bring in a couple scorers, though. I'm not just saying one. I think a couple scorers.
I think right. I think one had only helped them maybe get back to the conference finals, because they were another Cinderella team, and that's why I was pulling for the Suns, because I wanted two Cinderellas in the Stanley Cup.
No, 100%. I think it would have been definitely been interesting to see Senators versus Predators. That's actually what I was hoping for, because I know of some Penguins fans. I'm not a big Penguin fan, honestly. I'm not a big fan of them. Like I'm not gonna. No offense to any Penguins fans that are watching. I just find I can't stand Crosby. That's the main thing. I don't hate him because of his skill. I love his skill set, but he's just too much of a crybaby. But
I don't know a lot of Penguins fans, but I think he's a bitch. He's a very talented bitch, but he's still a bitch.
Yeah, I honestly agree with your assessment. But I think my closing words, I don't know if you want to go first, but my closing words on just the Game 7, because I want to go into a finals review as well. I think on this Game 7, it proved that the better team did win, but I also think it proved that if the better team can win regardless of their talent, if they play better together, if they have a good defensive scheme, and if they just have a really hot goaltender, you can steal a whole series. Hell, like in my opinion, my Bruins, when they won the Cup, we weren't better talented than Vancouver. I don't think so. So I think you can win a Stanley Cup if you play the best together as a team compared to being the most talented.
Well, I also think that's right and indicative of Nashville. You know, I mean, they've got some studs on their team, but they had so many guys that were hurt.
Yeah.
And they beat the best team in the West.
Yeah.
In Anaheim. Anaheim finished number 1 overall, right? I'm not.
No. Chicago did, and then I think Anaheim was 2. I'd have to look at that, but yeah, Chicago. They swept Chicago in 4.
Yeah.
And then they beat the Blues. So I'd actually have to look. I don't know. I think the Blues might have been second. I'm gonna double check that now because I don't want to be wrong. But regardless, they beat, because they're the eighth seed. They beat every single team that was higher seeded than them. No, Minnesota I think was the second seed. Excuse me. But and they collapsed. They collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeff will probably like, yeah, the fucking Noah, the chokers. Yeah, no, it was the Blackhawks. Wild was second. Blues were third. Predators. Is this right? No. Oh, this is the division. I hate how they do that now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I gotta like read it retardedly. Blackhawks were first. Wild were second. Ducks were third. Oilers were fourth. Blues and Sharks were fifth and sixth. Flames were seventh. They obviously won a tiebreaker. And then Predators were eight. I hate that, by the way, how they break it from Central Division, Pacific Division. Just keep it Eastern Western Conference. It's fucking stupid. No one cares about the divisions. I don't. It's stupid. It's a gimmick. Yeah. But back on point. It's one of those things that I think that it just shows you don't need to be the best team in the regular season to go deep, make a run, and win the cup. So you want to go into the next game?
Yeah.
All right, so let's break it down. You got the Nashville Predators versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. Who do you think is going to win?
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say the Predators in 6.
I'm going to say that the Nashville Predators are going to win in 7. I think this will go 7. I think this will go to the distance. I think we're both on par, both same fucking thought logic when we come down to who we think is going to win. And you want to break down why you think they're going to win?
Okay. Pittsburgh overall, I think, they have better forward. We're going to have better forward play.
Right.
Defensively, I got to give it to Nashville with Subban and those cats and Weber. No, yeah.
Oh, Weber's just so we know, Weber's down in Montreal now because they traded.
Oh, duh. No, I'm thinking of what the fuck else am I thinking of?
I know you're talking about that. The kid that's been playing amazing.
Yeah, and I'm having a brain fart right now because I'm old. I'm calling a spade a spade. Don't get old, kids. Better defense for the most part. I think because I might have to say it's a rub if Pittsburgh had Letang.
Oh, Ellis. Were you thinking of Ryan Ellis?
Ryan Ellis, that's the kid. Yeah, between Ellis and Subban, that gives the Preds an edge on the defensive side of the house, because I think it'd be a rub if Pittsburgh had Letang. And goalie wise, I think Pekka Rinne is better is going to be better for them than either one of the two that fucking Pittsburgh's going to throw out there.
Yeah,
because I know Murray's got fucking ice water in his veins, but Rinne he's been ridiculous. I mean, when watching him in the Duck series, there was a couple saves that I'm like, there's no way they should have fucking made a couple saves that were just like fucking real. And I think Rinne is going to be the reason they win in 6. Now, but I'm going to tell you right now, the Preds are going to have to be super physical on Crosby and Malkin. Yeah. And Kessel. Yeah. They're going to have to fucking put the wood to them, early and often. Because if you let those 3 get loose, Rinne is always only going to be able to stop so much before the levee breaks and all hell breaks loose. And that's all I got.
Well, honestly, I think, like I said, I think it's going to 7. I think Nashville, because of their defense, I firmly do believe defense does win championships. I do think Pittsburgh has some good young kids in the backside, but obviously Pittsburgh forwards, it doesn't even fucking come close. I would take Kessel over some of their guys they have. It's just so deep forward wise with Pittsburgh. But the one thing I've noticed, if you play physical with Pittsburgh, and you get those Crosby, Kessel, even a little bit of, I think Kunich a little bit more hard-nosed, but even Malkin at times, if you play hard-nosed with them, they do kind of not engage as much.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to play that defensive game, and that's why I think Nashville's can be their kryptonite, because they play so strong. They have Ekholm, they have Ellis, they have Subban, who's a little bit more of a skill guy, but he's still a big boy. You have not Shea Weber, but you have the other Weber on the defensive pairing. I think it's still out there.
Yeah, that's the kid I was thinking of.
Oh, okay. My apologies then, because like when people say Weber, I think of Shea Weber. No disrespect to him, but that's just how it is.
Poor bastard. Go to Montreal.
Poor bastard. Well, that is true. But I think, look at it this way, man. Johansson's done, I believe, right? He's got to get hip surgery, so he's done.
Yeah.
So
thigh surgery. He already had thigh surgery.
That's crazy. So he's done, obviously.
He might be back.
Might be. It's just their top scorer is Philip Forsberg.
Mm-hmm.
With 15 points, he's had a really good postseason.
Yeah.
He has had 8 goals and 7 assists, so it's very even. But for this team to succeed, Forsberg has to light it up. Forsberg, Ellis has to keep playing well on defensive pair because he's kind of like Carlson light when it comes to producing from the back end. Like he's got 11 points right now. You have Colton Sitson's a center for them. Is 10 points.
Kid in that game 6 with the hat trick.
Oh, dude.
He was unconscious. And it was funny, too, because we were watching that game 6 after he scored that third goal. And because a lot of people didn't realize it was a hat trick.
I didn't. It took me a second. I was like, did he just do that?
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I looked at my girlfriend, and she looked at me, and she had the line of night. She goes, boy, he's getting laid tonight.
Well, dude, it's crazy because I think defensively and like offense on the defense, the Predators are way deeper because they have Yossi, who's also a really good defensive.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yossi, so you have Ellis, Yossi, Subban, who are all great offensive defensemen. Yossi and Subban have 10 points. Ellis has 11 points. That's 3 from the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Victor Arvidsson, if I'm saying that correctly. He's also got 10 points. So Nashville does have a somewhat balanced attack. It's not like Pittsburgh where it's all the forwards, in my opinion. But it's more like a little bit contribution from like Forsberg and Sitsons. And then you also have the back end with Subban, Yossi, Ellis. Like I said, this series will be good. I think it will be interesting. But I take Nashville for me because I believe in karma a little bit. I think Pittsburgh should have kept with the hot hand with Fleury because I don't think Murray's been tested that well compared to what he will be tested like versus the Nashville Predators, who play a tight game, who just, let's be, facts are fucking facts. Like, I think the second best defenseman with the Senators is maybe Phaneuf, or I don't know who you'd give it to.
Yeah, Phaneuf.
But there's a drop off, and whereas you got like Subban, you got Ellis, you got Yossi, you have the younger Weyer kid. It's like Weber kid. They're deep. They're deep. They can rip it from the point. So I think it's gonna be a series where Pittsburgh's faults will get exposed, because I've just noticed historically with Pittsburgh, when they get roughed up or they get stifled and they start getting frustrated, when they get mentally knocked off their game, they are not the same team. They are not the consistent team. They are not that juggernaut. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah. I think at the end of the whole thing, Rene is going to be the difference.
Yeah. I agree 100%. He's going to be the difference. And if he keeps up his torrid streak, which I have no reason to doubt why he would, he's already done it for 3 series. If he keeps this up, honestly, he'll win the Conn Smythe, in my opinion, because he's been the best in the playoffs. There's no doubt. Obviously, it's Carlson's up there, but like we have to give it to a Stanley Cup winner or loser. I think lights out game playing. Like you can't tell me any better goaltender or any player overall right now than him. There's just nobody.
Carried them.
like
he's carried them at points. When the offense hasn't been that good, he's been there to just fucking, kind of anchor everything.
Just to put this in perspective for people that don't know, he's got a 941 save percentage. That's like historic. And he's got a 1.70 goals against. Like when Tim Thomas went on his, I referenced Tim Thomas because I'm a Bruins fan. He had like a 938 or something like that, and that was considered godly at the time. I'd have to look up who's the highest save percentage in playoff history, but I think he's up there now.
Yeah, I don't doubt it because it's just been, like I said, that the Anaheim series, he was for the most part unconscious.
Yeah,
he was like he I don't know what the hockey gods took over and just his eyes rolled back in the head and he just went fucking batshit crazy and decided nothing's getting through or
yeah. It's insane. It's insane how well they played. I think that it's going to be definitely interesting to see. I think he'll keep up his post and overall. By the way, this is weird. This is a weird statistic because I just referenced Tim Thomas. Guess who? Tim Thomas for all-time playoff save percentage leaders. He's actually ahead of everyone. He's got a 933 save percentage in his career. That's actually kind of funny. I didn't know that. I just looked up that stat. And who's in second? Brandon Holtby with a 932, even though he collapsed this year. I don't know how updated this is. I think they didn't update it this postseason, but we'll have to see. But dude, Rene, dude, he's making history right now in Nashville, and it's fun. Middle East a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah,
see how they're playing.
It just sucks that I'm not seeing him do it on my team, but he's doing it.
But you got Calvin Pickard, so you start playing that kid, you'll be good. You'll be fucking good, man. But feel like you have anything else to say, man? Because I think we've said pretty much everything that was on our mind.
Just everybody enjoy the finals.
Damn straight. Enjoy the finals. Drink a few beers.
I think I might be cracking the grill open before the game starts fucking Monday.
That'd be a good idea. That's actually a really good idea. I might try to do that myself. I think I would drink, but I can't. On Dr. Soda, I can't even drink soda. So I got to drink strictly water, but get drunk for me, though. Just get smashed. But all right, man. So we left you, our opinions and thoughts. I think also, just to end it on this note, it has been a great playoff series, but for fuck's sake, I cannot take any more Crosby cock swallowing from these fucking analysts anymore. So I'm hoping that changes next series. I hope they give some attention to Nashville that they deserve, like PK Subban, because I know PK is kind of a media favorite as well. So I'm hoping it's like at least 50-50. If you're gonna do it both sides for fuck's sake. But all right, so
if you're gonna fucking give Cindy a fucking hand job, at least fucking throw a little love to fucking PK.
Exactly, man. They're a little bit of a handy out there. But all right, guys, we appreciate you guys stopping by. Make sure to comment down below, give you our thoughts, opinions. We'd really appreciate it if you shared this on any social media websites, or if you have a Facebook or a Twitter, if you share it on there. Like I said, commenting and liking also does help us out. So for putting on the Foil Sports Talk Radio, our Zamboni's here. We got to lace up the skates and hit the ice. And we're TOI. Out.
Laters.